Okay, again, welcome everyone to the 2019 J.D. Power Consumer Financing Satisfaction Study pre-release webinar. We are always very happy to bring everyone together at this time of year. CFS is an interesting one. It publishes just before the holiday sprint, and we're really excited to share the results with you. This is Lisa Stymack. I'm the National Account Director for J.D. Power in our Auto Finance Division, and I know many, if not most of you on the call today. Today's audience consists of both our subscribers as well as those who are seeking information about our research. So not only is the information tailored to both audiences, it's tailored based on the fact that we have not actually released the study yet. So this is a pre-release informational session. With me here today, I have Jim Houston, the Senior Director of the Auto Finance Practice.
Thank you, Lisa, and welcome to everybody on the call. I appreciate the information to be shared today, as well as everyone's participation. A lot of the information you're going to hear today is stuff I've talked about both at the NADA Auto Summit for J.D. Power, as well as a couple of weeks ago at the Auto Revolution Conference.
Thanks, Jim. And for the folks that work with us, you also know Patrick Rosenberg. He's the director with the Auto Finance Practice as well. He is listening in, but on his way to the Talk Auto Conference for our friends in Canada. So we want to spend about a half hour today walking through some information for you. Again, today is not meant to reveal to you in any way the performance at a lender level in the study. It's really just at a glimpse. So this slide here just gives you a quick recap on events. Today is just to review select insights and trends that we noted in the 2019 results. The study itself will contain very in-depth data. We ask a lot of questions that I can't begin to share with you in this webinar, and quite in fact, even for our subscriber base, there's so much data that we really need to get nose to nose with you to uncover the exceptional value that the study brings. It casts such a broad net across the customer experience, and I'll get into that in a little bit here in like the next two slides. The results will officially publish on the 7th, so that's this Thursday, and that is a private subscriber release. So if you purchase the study, you will get access to the results on Thursday. We're hosting all of the scorecard meetings for all of our subscribers, and then the official release will be around 2 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes it's a little bit earlier than that. Then the press release, for those of you who are interested in information about our survey but have not yet purchased, the press release will be issued on the 14th. And again, that's the public release. Excuse me. So you will see in that press release our two rank charts. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then again, for those who do actively participate in the study, presentations will begin in December. I've already booked a few of those, some of them in January, which is totally fine. I know that a lot of folks kind of shut down for the end of year. So if you want to reach out about scheduling your presentation now, that would be great. And we are all ears for those that want to do that.
And for those partners that have subscribed to the study, I look forward to the conversations on Thursday, so we can go through the results a little bit more in depth, provide you with the scorecard information to give you some highlights on the KPIs, and then develop a much broader discussion for our presentations in December.
Thanks, Jim. A quick methodological review. What is this survey? Again, for those that are less familiar, and a review for those that are familiar. The focus of CFS is really to highlight the behaviors that are going to influence satisfaction. So, J.D. Power is known for our rank charts. We're known for, the public release of a descending order of performers, who does it best, and so on. But really what's behind that is the value that J.D. Power brings, is to help you make decisions and interact with your customers differently so that you can influence that experience and deliver a improved service delivery for your customers while also improving efficiencies. And there's several things that we'll talk about today that circle both of those topics. We are in a second year of a recent redesign, so we will have a third year in 2020, and then we'll walk into a redesign. So this is going to give you some trending data year over year. I will talk about some year over year trends, and then you'll see that again next year. I touched on this already. Our public rankings that you will see include both a luxury and a mass market segmentation. That is defined not on the lender name, but is defined based on the vehicle. So for some of the non-captive institutions, you will see them listed in both because it's based on the vehicle being financed. Our sample did increase considerably year over year, roughly an 8% increase, a little bit more in the mass market than it did in the luxury category, but overall an 8% increase on a study of this magnitude is definitely worth noting. We're hovering right around 15,000 evaluations, and so for those of you considering the research and for those of you that use it, you're going to have a lot of sample to work with, and the power and the numbers is really what J.D. Power brings to the table. If you're examining consumer trends, using 15,000 evaluations is going to give you a really, really hearty sample to work with and a lot of confidence in the data. If you are looking at lender level information, you will be happy to know that we have 24 mass market brands that will be profiled in our results and 15 luxury brands. Now, those are the brands that meet our rank eligible criteria. So that means they had 100 or more completes in our survey. There are lenders that have less than 100, but more than 30, and we call them small sample. So a lot of folks fall in that category too. So there's even a longer list of lenders for you to examine. And for those of you that like to look at the different segmentation of customer preferences and satisfaction, there's a whole lot to work with within CFS. We have a new and used cut, a very unique in the market direct and indirect cut. We're one of the very few sources out there that offer a direct view of the customer auto finance experience. Loan and lease, and then age. Age is something that I actually will show you a couple different cuts of in today's presentation.
I think it's important to note, Lisa, too, that the direct piece is something that we went towards in the redesign last year to understand that the market is changing and more consumers are gravitating to a desire to execute a loan or lease prior to visiting the dealership.
Absolutely, and so that's translating into a more educated customer too, and I think that was our big storyline from last year and will carry over into this year. As I mentioned, this is the second year of our redesign, so the model itself stayed the same, and what you're looking at on the left-hand side is the J.D. Power model. These are the moments of interaction that we capture and isolate in our survey, meaning we ask the customer questions about their billing and payment process, their website, onboarding, origination, and mobile app experience. These are the themes within our survey. There are many, many other things we ask about, including lease end, but these are the main drivers of customer satisfaction. And again, using the 15,000 evaluations that we have in our survey, we can tell you where the customer puts the most attention, what matters most to them as they go on this journey with you from start all the way through long-term servicing. And we're talking to customers, that are early on in their loan or lease, as well as out to 3 to 4 years into their loan or lease. So you have people who have recently experienced joining on as a customer with you, as well as those that have been around a while. And that's what we're kind of showing on the right-hand side, the incidence or the occurrence of respondent participation. And so what does that mean? It means that when we walk a customer through our survey, 100% of the customers are able to and in fact answer the billing and payment questions. Everyone has a billing and payment experience, whether that billing and payment experience was simply a set it and forget it, or if it's a monthly occurrence where they're managing their payments on a monthly basis by going to your website or using the mobile app. Either way, 100% of the customers experience that. Go down to website, and we have roughly about 60% of customers that say that within the time period that we're surveying them, they've utilized your website to interact with you. The onboarding and originations at 40% is just simply a product of survey design. We have to target customers that are less than 12 months into their loan or lease for a recency factor. But really, you think about this, as you onboard those customers and think about that in-dealership experience, that is a critical point for you. This is the first experience that they have with you. And as we can show you through our data how important those interactions are, quite in fact, they can become the most important things outside of the mobile app experience. Then that brings me to the mobile app on the right-hand side. Roughly 26% of the customers that we surveyed indicate that they're utilizing their lender's mobile app to interact with you. Now, that's something that I know a lot of folks are working towards as part of their long-term plan, is to launch a mobile app, and we certainly are standing behind that. We think that the website experience is predominant right now using a mobile tool. So I'm using my phone to access the website. That's happening, but the mobile app experience is going to start to consume this marketplace. Moving on, let's take a look now at some of the data inside the results from 2019. What did we find? So at the top of the slide, we talk about the raw data itself. Observationally, what did we notice about our ranking? So while I can't tell you who won and all the specifics of that, what I can tell you is from a holistic sense, the industry is relatively flat. There was no statistical changes for the market up or down. But there were a few standouts at the top, and you'll see that in the results for subscribers on Thursday and then on the 14th for our press release. And for those folks that are standing out at the top, they really do share some commonalities. And those commonalities are a better digital experience, without question, and a cultural focus on the customer. It's a pleasure being in the seat that I'm in because I get to work with so many of you, and I get to hear your stories about how you're focusing on the customer. So we not only have that insight and knowledge, but a lot of you are actively advertising your claim to focus on the customer to them directly. And so you'll see in the results who's really doing a great job at that, and I don't think the results are going to be that surprising for that reason. Moving on, so some of the other things that we saw in the 2019 results is focused around starting things right. And I was just talking about that when we were thinking about the model. The onboarding and origination experience is everything, because that's the first moment they really start thinking about you as a lender. And there's that passing of the torch, you know, from the dealer to you. And so there's a little bit of white space there. But taking control over that experience is going to yield you considerable gains. And what we're seeing in the results is that onboarding is really a sprint. It's something that happens in a short period of time. It happens fast and it's impactful. But we really see it as having potentially multiple stops. And you'll see more about what I mean on that here in a little bit.
And I think when you talk about the onboarding piece, which is very important in the study, is the idea that it starts at the dealership. So if I'm in the dealership receiving my vehicle, the decision for financing is made by either the consumer or the dealer, or directed by the dealer, and the obvious information passed from the dealer to the consumer about who they finance with, why they finance with that particular lender, the reputation of that particular lender, and how to engage with that particular lender creates a lot of value add once they leave the dealership. There's a lot of anxiety when I bought my new vehicle. There's a lot of thought about the new vehicle. There's a lot of bells and buttons and whistles in the vehicle I just got. However, the important piece is 2 or 3 days later when I leave the dealership, who did I finance with? And now I have to start making a payment. So, but we know a number of lenders in the marketplace today spend a lot of time and energy both with their sales staff and the dealership to talk about how to engage the customer. A lot of dollars are spent, a lot of dual initiatives in place, but onboarding is a very important function to make sure the customer gets the right start in the journey of experience.
Thanks, Jim. Next, talking about digital. It has to be there, but most importantly, it has to be easy. And we've talked a lot about this in the past. And what's really happening that we see is the younger generations are putting immense pressure because they have all of these various digital experiences, and the auto finance experience really pales in comparison. And so you'll see some slides coming up that kind of talk about that. But digital really runs a thread through all aspects of the customer experience. It runs a thread through shopping, through onboarding, and through interaction and servicing. And then lastly, one of the key things that we want to talk about is know when and who to market to. This is really kind of an old topic, if you will, but you know, transitioning customers off paper statements. We're going to actually spend some time on a whole slide dedicated to that. So I'm just going to really fast forward now and kind of move on. So how is digital changing the auto finance customer experience? This is one of the biggest finds from our research this year. A statistical change has been noted. From 2018 to 2019, 5 percentage points higher. Consumers are saying they're going online to research their finance options, not the vehicles, strictly their finance options. There was a statistical change in the industry year over year. And again, we're talking about 15,000 evaluations, so it takes a lot, and that is a quite considerable jump. And really the impact of that is knowing where to meet the customer then for the information that they're seeking. And it's going to work in your favor to empower the customer. If you don't, you'll see in a little bit that that choice that the customer had to make about who their lender is could be missed. Looking at the bottom of the slide, what we're showing you here is where the customer is seeking out information. So the 48% on the left is just the reverse of the 52 on the top of the slide. So 48% of customers did not do any type of research, okay? So that's still a big number, but like I said, the trend is significantly moving in the opposite direction. Moving from left to right then, roughly 10% of customers are saying to use a third-party site, 21% for blogs, 28% for manufacturer's website, and impressively, 25% for the finance provider's website. And the green stacking here that's in the chart itself indicates the overall satisfaction impact. So the most impactful source of information that they found was via the finance provider's website. So that's something that I found to be a really strong takeaway. Furthermore, not shown or illustrated on the slide is the age breakout. Back up to the top, that 52% breaks out quite differently. That number becomes 72% among those under 40 and 42% for those over. So it's a really big shift that's happening here. But I don't want to mislead you that it's strictly this younger customer demographic. The biggest shift to happen year over year was among the older demographic. So while the younger demographic makes up a larger pool of the total, the older generation is catching up very quickly. And so this is a trend that cannot be ignored. Furthermore, under finance provider's website, if you do the age cohort breakout again, it's 38% for those under 40. So the activity there is really, really heavy among that younger customer. And we can show you the breakdown among all those different sources.
And I think when you look at this slide, what you have to recognize is that far right green bar tells you why there are new entrants in the finance space. So the direct-to-consumer space, non-traditional lenders, right? So we're not talking about a traditional bank or captive that has a financing tool, but we're talking about those that are non-traditional, right? Credit unions, fintechs, and others that are moving into that space or levering the fact that consumers want to have the information from a trusted source and are willing and able to complete a credit application and engage the financing process before they reach the dealership.
It's a good transition, Jim. The next slide, what we want to talk about here is a focus on this researching online before coming to the dealership and how that translates through and carries that thread of a digital world. So everything is broken up at the very top based on customers that did research online, same customer base that we were just talking on the previous slide, and those that did not. How does that differ? Well, it obviously has a significant impact on satisfaction. The 856 versus 833 on a 1,000-point scale is in fact significant. What's also incredibly interesting is that it can actually influence provider selection. So we asked a question to the consumer, did they go into their vehicle shopping experience with a provider already chosen? And among those that researched digitally, it's a much, much higher percent, so 56 versus 35%. We also asked the customer why they ended up picking the lender that they did. And while dealer-based recommendation is still the #1 reason, it's not the most satisfactory. In fact, that is the least satisfactory reason to pick a lender is what the dealer's assigning it to me. The most satisfactory answer is shown here, where I'm picking, as a consumer, the lender based on the reputation of that financial institution. And it's quite different if I'm that educated customer going through a process of learning and experiencing with that lender prior to walking into the dealership. Then where it starts to take a really powerful turn is, did I actually translate this into an application? 36% of those that researched digitally said they did. definitely a significant difference between those that did not research digitally. Carry that down to the bottom of the slide. Carry that down to those that applied digitally versus those that did not apply digitally. Very significant difference again. We've known from many, many years of the research that the online application does yield a higher satisfaction overall, but it also can be driven or it can be prompted by the pre-approval. So that's that orange bar in the middle there. What percent of customers that applied digitally said that they had a pre-approval in hand? Well, it's 63% versus 32% for those that did not apply digitally.
So as you engage, and as we see in the data, the engagement process with consumers and the application process are really threefold, right? So A, I want an application that provides me with an approval, not a soft approval, not a lead to the dealership, an approval that says my credit is worthy and I'd like to be approved and I'd like to buy a vehicle. The second piece of that is for those that already have somebody in their portfolio, the pinging of the consumer throughout the life cycle of the loan or lease with a pre-approval reminder spurs action. Just like we as consumers receive notification through our mortgage company, our credit card company, a personal loan that you're pre-approved for something, you may or may not choose to be or take that particular offer. But in the auto world, we're seeing consumers, well, maybe I will buy a new car. Maybe I will buy a used car. Maybe I'm in the market to buy a car for someone else in my household. So the pre-approvals drive customer satisfaction.
Thanks, Jim. Now we're going to take some snippets out of the onboarding and payment section. One of the key findings from this year as well is exactly which channel you're delivering onboarding materials to the customer through. Is it happening in the dealership, post-dealership, or a mix of both? If we compare the post-dealership to the both experience, excuse me, the post-dealership experience is significantly lower in terms of satisfaction as compared to in-dealership. So getting that information to the customer while they're in the dealership is of a significant importance, without question. The question then is it important to do it both in the dealership as well as after? And our results tell us that it absolutely is. The recall value is significant in the customer being able to recognize the type of information that you're providing to them. And why that matters is you can help reduce early calls and confusion and increase self-service with the right communication, method, as well as content. And our results can actually tell you of these things listed here, the types of information that they can receive via onboarding yield the highest satisfaction. So it's a mix of both the right channel as well as the right content. Talking a little bit about statements, customers continue to move to digital statements, but it's really not happening at a very rapid pace. You can see that here. Paper statements have gone down by 2 percentage points year over year, and digital methods collectively have gone up. So there really isn't a big shift happening here, nor would we expect it really to. But what's interesting is if you take that paper method or those traditional customers and you isolate them and you ask them what percentage of you would switch if you were asked, and it's about 11%. So 1 out of 10 customers actually indicate they would move if they were asked. The chances are they've been asked. The takeaway from this, though, is that a customer in the first 12 months of their life cycle with you is significantly more likely to make the switch if asked. And past that point, it is just diminishing returns. So what we're recommending is that you have a early, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but direct and purposeful campaign and then let it go, because those customers are very unlikely to switch. About 80% of them indicate they just like it. And it's not because they don't like the digital channels, because 68% of the customers that get paper statements pay digitally. So that relationship doesn't exist.
So for lenders in the marketplace today, the investment dollar to try to convert a consumer past a certain period of time becomes wasted dollars. We suggest that those dollars should be spent on a more aggressive digital solution allows the consumer to create a relationship with the lender based on their wants and needs versus the lender pushing a particular channel that meets their wants and needs.
And then lastly, around the billing and payment section, just to give you a glimpse into the results, is about the payment itself. So we just talked about statements, we talked about onboarding, now we're talking about actually paying the bill. We at J.D. Power believe that auto pay will continue to decrease. It's not happening rapidly, but we will see that shift occurring. If we do the split among the age groups, you can see that auto pay is considerably lower among the younger age group, 32% versus 36%. And conversely, digitally controlled payments is much higher, particularly for paying through the finance provider's website and through the finance provider's mobile app. What that means is there needs to be a focus on these digital channels and how they're operating with the customer. And simply offering the channel is not enough. And the reason for that is the impact to satisfaction is quite considerable. So if we look at the bottom of the screen, these are high usage website features and how many customers feel that they were very easy to use. Considerably lower percentages are noted for the younger group in terms of these things being easy to use. And so we're saying that there should be a focus for lenders on this usability of their website functionality. Because the website access through a mobile phone is very, very high. 45% of customers under 40-year-old are accessing their lender's website via their phone, right? So it's quite considerable, and really we need to make sure that this functionality is operating based on their expectations. They're experiencing a lot of other digital channels, and quite frankly, it's not measuring up.
And what you'll hear us talk about over the coming weeks and months is the fact that consumers compare their experience, the use of your website, to every other website they use. So the easier to use, the more digitally aggressive it is from the consumer's perspective. The two-click gets where I want to get to, operate in the time frame I want to operate in, crosses all industries. And it impacts the lending industry because most of the time websites have been built to be very perfunctory, legally sound. We want to make sure that the information is protected. However, the consumer wants a very easy, understandable, accessible experience.
So that gives you an at a glance of some of the highlights from the research this year. Additional analysis that we'll be exploring with our subscribers through our data is some of the shopping behaviors and why consumers are picking the lender that they are. Definitely in the in-dealership experience, this is a really hot topic for me and a lot of my clients is talking about what's happening, before they really take ownership of that customer. What's happening there? How is the dealer acting as an advocate for them as a lender? And how are they helping the customer on board with me once I am selected? We definitely explore some of the brand loyalty measures. We actually ask the customer if they plan to remain loyal to the dealership and to the vehicle brand. And then a lot of the other things that you see listed here will be explored with our subscribers through their presentations. So if you're interested in information about the subscription, again, you will get detailed data at the lender level. All lenders, not just you, and even if you're not profiled, you will get to see all the lenders in the results. The presentation does come with your subscription. That's including myself, Jim, and Patrick, providing to you our recommendations on, what the industry is demanding and how you're performing relative to that. Again, access to our team. We actually have a simulation tool that allows you to do scenario testing. So to say, if I was to focus on onboarding versus improving my website, how does that impact my overall score? You can do those type of isolation exercises. And then as you become part of the auto finance family, you get access to not only the consumer finance study, which we're here to talk about today, but also our lease end study, which we're launching in March of 2020, our dealer financing satisfaction study, which published in August, just a few months ago, our upcoming commercial lending study, which will launch at the end of next year, as well as our digital expert evaluation team, because we know that that's a definite opportunity area for the auto finance sector. So I represent Jim and Patrick to say we are very excited to release a whole lot more data to everyone on Thursday who subscribes to the results and anyone who wants to learn more. We obviously tried to pack a lot into today just to give you a glimpse of all the information that we can offer to you. So we look forward to hearing from all of our subscribers on Thursday and anyone else that would like information.
Thank you for taking the time today to listen to us, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you.